Now, many of you probably know our new EPA director, Scott Pruitt, isn't exactly a fan of the EPA, but recently he's taken a move that I would say is surprising, but it's really not. By replacing, he dismissed half of the 18 members on the science board and plans to replace them with heads of the industries that they tend to, or historically regulate. So, what do you think? Conflict of interest there, or
Well, I mean, this guy sued the EPA, I would think, as when he was the Attorney General of Oklahoma, I believe. He sued the EPA 14 separate times, and this guy has immense ties to the fossil fuel industry. There was, in 2013, I believe, he received he was trying to, like, reduce ozone limits and challenge the renewable energy standard in Oklahoma. And the fossil fuel industry, it was oil and lobby group, I forget the exact name of it, but they sent him template language to challenge that in court. So that just goes to show that he is in the industry's pocket, and this isn't like the Republican argument that, oh, the federal government overreach states' rights. It's bullshit.
yeah,
Because this guy is politically driven by the fossil fuel industry. So
he's in a league of his own with some of these things. This is also the guy who isn't convinced that asbestos should be banned. There's some clips of him back not too long ago, weeks ago, going on with that. Thankfully, he hasn't pushed for that yet. But with this thing in particular, it is completely counter to what the EPA is supposed to do. Now, the EPA is supposed to regulate industry and all based on science. Now, the scientists on it don't have a financial stake in their findings or decisions. It's based on the science. Bringing in heads of the industries that have a direct conflict of interest with what the results of these are, it completely defeats the purpose of what the EPA is supposed to be doing. It's like sabotage.
I think. Do you think the end goal is to? I feel like the end goal for Trump and Scott Pruitt is to eventually eradicate the EPA. I think they want it. I think they want it gone. Like, I'm tired of this. Like, they think climate change is. I mean, Trump's probably. I think he's backtracked a little bit off of that, saying that the Chinese made up climate change as a hoax. But just everything that they're doing with the EPA is showing that they already cut its budget. Now they're doing this with the scientists. They're placing it with industrialists. It's a move towards the eradication of the entire EPA. And that's not like a far-fetched statement.
No, it's not a far-fetched statement at all.
If you just do your research and look at what's happening, like, anyone could come to that type of conclusion.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's the case. Now, I know a lot of people aren't fans of regulation, and there are a lot of useless, shitty regulations that just make things more difficult and cost money, but there's also a lot of really good ones that are necessary. The EPA wasn't put in place for no reason at all. Before it, there was a lot of problems.
And I'm tired of the federal overreach argument with the EPA, because you know what? If we're really gonna tackle climate change, it's not a matter of, oh, well, the states can decide whether they want to do it or not. Like, that's not going to work, because you're going to have more than half of them not do it. So you need the federal government, in this case at least, to step in and take an initiative, which the Obama administration did, but Trump and Scott Pruitt is dismantling that.
I think,
and that's a nice term. Like, that's their move. It's huge.
They're taking a dump on it, but whether you like the EPA or not, it's having a person in charge of it who seems to be solely interested in undermining it. It's I don't even know the right word for it. Counterproductive is an understatement. It's gonna just end up with moving backwards.
It's honestly pathetic.
And it should not be like, this guy has no place being EPA director.
I would rather them just come out and say that they would want to destroy the EPA.
They've all but have. They have, but I'd rather them just be like, all right, you know what? We're gonna cut the budget entirely. It's done. Then them try and, like, destroy it slowly and progressively from within. Because they know if they went flat out and said what you suggested, it would be a massive uproar and it would not get done. By making it what he did now, he's gonna make it wholly ineffective for the most part, and then it's gonna just slowly die.
Eventually, like, right now, like, within, like, I'm just making odd prediction right now, but within the year, the EPA could just be doing absolutely nothing, and then it'll just slowly and incrementally disappear.
Become less and less relevant and more of a joke to everyone. And that is not a good thing. The EPA, there's definitely things that could be improved about it, but the way to improve it is not by getting rid of half of the scientists on the science board and replacing it with industrialists who actually have interests that counter to what the science has been showing.
Do we really want to go back in time and just start relying on fossil fuels all over again? Not that we still are, but we've at least made some type of progress. Yeah.
And now I know there's a lot of jobs in it, and they say with like the coal jobs even, but the fact is there's literally more jobs now in renewable energy, and
probably better jobs.
They are better
honestly.
jobs.
And now you're not like the coal industry. Like I understand that it employs a lot of people, but you have a lot of, I don't know the exact percentage or anything like that, but people that work in the coal industry for their lifetime end up getting black lung disease, and they're just okay with it. They're okay with it. Like,
I don't know if they're not okay with it, but
they accept it, and
because remember though, a lot of people, like, if you grow up and that's like your family's heritage, like if you grew up in a lot of those areas that is was the only industry there, and they watched their towns as coal died out, and not because anyone had a conspiracy against it, not because the government wanted to crush coal miners. But that's what happens as technology advances and time goes on and coal became less relevant. What were once booming towns where everyone was employed, they started losing jobs and the town started dying out. And a real problem is, and it shouldn't be put on a back burner, these people who are losing jobs. But the solution isn't bringing back jobs that, one, they're still irrelevant jobs. It's not even bringing many of them back what they've been doing.
You can bring a little of them back. You're not going to bring them all back because times are changing.
Wouldn't it be better to actually do job training, even job training programs? Like, instead, all right, these people want work and they have every right to want work.
Exactly.
And they deserve work, so why not have training programs to teach them how to, I forget the term, but like something with building the solar panels or moving toward renewable energy.
Well, I know jobs. the general term for those type of jobs that are like renewable is green jobs. So like,
and they're a giant industry right now, much bigger than coal, much bigger than even, I'm not sure if they're bigger than natural gas. That would be me talking out of my ass, but I know they're a lot more than coal jobs. We should be moving towards the future, not trying to linger in the past.
I actually just saw the other day that Germany now gets 85% of their electricity from solar energy.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
And it just disproves everyone you're saying it can't be done. Because it is being done currently.
And Germany is granted, we're a much bigger economy, but we're a bigger economy than anyone in the world. And a much bigger country,
too.
But Germany is a relatively large economy, and you could see they're still surviving. They haven't fallen apart yet because they chose to go to renewable energy.
Now, the main thing, I think... Now, again, like, a lot of people like going with the ground level employees, like, they'll lose their jobs, but they're not the ones lobbying to destroy the EPA and keep all this. It's the industrialists who are making fortunes, billions off of it, that are willing to keep making money at the sacrifice of literally the environment, science, and people's health. It's disgusting. We're supposed to be trying to improve the country and move forward and come up with better ideas, not just stay with an old, outdated idea because it's making a couple people a whole lot of money that they then throw back into the government, people like Scott Pruitt, to push their agenda.
That's a good point, because at the end of the day, if we didn't make the move to renewable energy, it would benefit the little guy, but it would not benefit those big corporations.
Yes, that's who it would really hurt.
And those large industrialists that really don't want the renewable energy. Because the little guys may say it's bad, they'll lose their job, but there are going to be jobs for them.
And there should be more solutions to get those people jobs and train them for other jobs than what they have been trained for. But this isn't the way to go about that. And just what they're doing is they're using that as an excuse for what to keep these things to make them money. And especially if they're really concerned about all these people having jobs, then throughout, even before the renewable energy thing really kicked up, look at all the jobs that were lost as they found new technology that would save them money because they didn't have to hire as many people. They were willing to throw all of those people under the bus for another cent, but they're using them and their suffering and their hardships to push an agenda, which is, I think, despicable. But it's going to be the people having to say that this is bullshit.
And
if
honestly,
we want this to change.
you know, if
And
it's,
also, one last point I have. A big thing where a lot of people who voted for Trump are having no problem with Pruitt and what he's doing to the EPA. Also, I remember, if I'm remembering right, during the election, a big thing was screw the lobbyists, Hillary Clinton and all, like, oh, she, with the lobbyist special interest. Scott Pruitt is practically a lobbyist. But now he's in charge. We were bitching about Goldman Sachs, and there's a little bit off the case. But now we have, how many Goldman Sachs employees right in the White House?
Well, I mean, I can think of at least 2 that are off the top of my head. I know
it's almost like we cut the middleman out, the lobbyist middleman out, and now just putting the industries right in charge. It's just as bad, if not worse. It's actually saving them a little bit of money. Don't got to hire all the lobbyists.
I hate to just go back to Trump, but like he literally just contradicted everything that he said. He put the establishment in his administration after he ran on an anti-establishment platform. So I mean,
well, a lot of people would mix it up because they think of just the establishment as the liberal establishment.
That's true.
But there's been the industrial establishment for a very, very fucking long time.
But no one thinks about them as the establishment anymore. They think that you're right.
They don't they don't like being in the headlines as much. They like hiding behind it.
They think about the stereotypical politician as being in the establishment, but the establishment also
the people funding them, Koch brothers,
count as the establishment.
All those kinds of people are the real establishment because they're the ones who are basically buying the politicians, and also the reason we have a lot of these politicians because they fund them. And Scott Pruitt is one of these people.
Guy's a puppet. He's a puppet.
He's not out for the best interest of the country. He's not out for your best interest, my best interest. He's out for the best interest of the people paying him.
If you put a guy that sued the EPA 14 separate times before he even took over the EPA, that just goes to show that he's not in there to make the EPA better.
He's in there to destroy it.
Well said.
I think that is a great spot to end this one on. Hope you guys tune in for our next video. We'll see you soon.